Okay, we will call to order the June 1st, 2022 APCHA regular board meeting. First item on the agenda is the roll call. Cindy, please go ahead.
Francie?
I'm here.
David?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
Skippy?
Present.
John?
Present.
Allison?
Yes, here.
And Rachel?
Here. Full house.
Okay. We will move to public comment. Don't have anyone here in the room, so we'll go online. For public comment, you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and unmute yourself if you have a public comment.
Yeah, we have one.
Mr. Dillon?
Yeah. He's in there twice for some reason.
Mr. Dillon, did you have a public comment?
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't hear you. Can you guys hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay, great. I get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, you seem to have two
But anyway,
logins or
Bob
something.
Dillon, I'm with Aspen Total Automotive. I just wanted to talk a couple of minutes about some of the struggles as a local business owner. It is to try to get people from out of state to come move here. I've recently hired a couple of guys. One came from Rochester, New York, and being able to secure affordable housing with somebody who is new in the valley is difficult, and obviously you all know that. Matt and I spoke the other day, and we talked about a number of things. One of which is, there is an emergency classification for housing, but it doesn't really seem like there's an essential worker classification for housing. And I wanted to bring it up and just that we are an essential business in the valley. We're the only auto repair place, close to Aspen. And we need more bodies and getting up and more skilled labor getting in here. And one of the problems with the Valley now is really a lack of workers and a lack of skilled labor coming in. So I wanted to bring up the point that, potentially if there is a classification now with emergency workers, I wonder if, that can be expanded some to include essential workers. And I understand with that classification, you have to still be here for 1 year, and then you kind of go and jump ahead to the 4-year categories to be able to get on the top of the list and kind of get into housing. So anyway, I'll just throw that out in public comment, and just wanted to comment on, really, you guys are doing a great job. There's a ton of housing that's around here. Just try to figure out whether it's getting allocated to the workers, the essential workers and emergency workers and things that make this town tick. That's it.
Thanks, Bob.
Carson?
Thank you. Rachel, go ahead.
Bob,
I need to see if I can mute this. Hold on a second.
okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, is Aspen Total Automotive the old Pitkin County off-road? Pitco?
Yes, it is. I bought the business about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And it, increased the staffing quite a
Yeah,
bit.
no, I just, I'm thinking maybe our county reps can take a look backwards on that. I believe I was on the county commission at the time when Pitco Off-Road came in, and they were developing the new location, the new building you are in now, or refurbishing it. And they pleaded essential workers and that they didn't need any new housing and that they were, all their workers were fully housed and that we were going to lose the automotive shop altogether if we had required affordable housing mitigation. And I cannot recall if there was an audit that was going to be performed a few years later and then it would be required or not. But John Gunther made a very convincing case that we would lose the automotive repair shop to the Board of County Commissioners at that time. And I cannot remember the details of it because it was probably a half dozen years ago. But I think it'd be worth looking into from our side, from our county reps, to see if there was any requirement for an audit and additional housing mitigation should there be new employees housed. But at that time, which was pre-pandemic, it wasn't a crisis for them, and they tried to proceed without housing.
Well,
So-
but Rachel, that's completely misses the point today.
No, I'm just trying to say
we
there's
can't go
some
back in
history.
history 25 years ago to decide.
No, this
if
was
you
5
needed-
years ago, John, not 25.
When he was redeveloping the space?
Yes, before he sold it. And I mean, I was on the board, so it wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
And I agree with the general point and the concept, but we also have not begun to say our postmen essential delivery people within our community or anyone else. The only emergency responders are sheriff, police, ambulance, that sort of thing. But, you
Yeah, I
know.
mean, I think we've heard requests for numerous industries to be considered essential workers. And I think it's, where we've kind of settled on that is it becomes a question of how do you prioritize the postman versus the auto repair, whatever,
The
right?
child care worker.
Teachers,
and
childcare workers.
how do they lose their housing
Right.
if they change jobs or
Right.
have to sell, all sorts of things. So
Right.
we just haven't gone down that road.
Person?
But do you want me to look into it, Rachel?
I'd love to see what the county record is on it, yes.
Okay.
Bob, I want to say that
Your dilemma, which you're having right now, is getting skilled workers into
because
the
he has
valley.
2 signed in.
And I think that's different than what it was. The Pitco was 14 years ago, I think, when John developed this property. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I have way more employees than what he had. And I'm bringing in people from out of state because we need skilled workers here. And if I am researching the potential for, maybe putting employee housing on this property if I could get away with it. So, I mean, I want to try to be additive as well as I am requesting for essential workers to have access to affordable housing.
Hi,
Allison.
Bob. It's Allison here. Members of the Aspen Chamber, a lot of businesses speak to this as well, so that'd be a group for you to look into, joining and speaking in that way. I also want to point out that the 4-year requirement is for home ownership and rentals. A lot of our privately managed affordable rentals do not have that requirement, so that's one part of our holdings that diversifies that option for new residents coming to the valley to work, that they can find rentals and then begin to apply after that 4 years. So that's just to clarify that our entire stock does not require a 4-year minimum.
Yep, thank you. And we're just starting to learn this as I have one of my workers that we're trying to get through the process who's worked here for probably like 6 years. So we're learning as we go.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Any other public comments? I'm not seeing any online here. And so with that, we will move to Executive Director's comments and
Good-
staff update.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matthew Gillen, the Executive Director of APCHA. I have just a few updates today. We did our first Facebook Live in Spanish last week, which I think was a big success. We want to grab Julia Peralta before she goes off on maternity leave, and so that was good. And then yesterday we did a meet and greet at Aspen Country Inn, and that was me and Sandra, who deals with most of those clients, and there was 10 or so people there, and we just had cookies and cupcakes, and just fortuitously Rocky, our dog, was there too, and so everybody enjoyed petting Rocky, so that was fun. And then I think you all know that we're pretty short-staffed at APCHA right now, to the point where Cindy and Bethany have been doing a lot of the qualifications, which has taken up a lot of their time. We do have somebody coming on board next week for qualifications, and that is reflected in my next ask of the board, which is that we go to one meeting rather than two through the summer. So that would be June, July, and August, which I think would give the board a better product when we give us a little bit more time, especially this summer, to get you a good packet once a month, as opposed to really scrambling twice a month. So I hope you'll look favorably on that request. And that's it for me. Cindy, do you have anything?
I know we're gonna have a couple of rental units coming up next week.
We have the same ones available.
Okay. And we don't have any rental units right now? Are we gonna be advertising any rental units next week?
Not differently than what we already
Okay.
have.
Okay. So there's not much, we are getting more rental units or ownership units that are starting to come up. We've had kind of a little quiet period for ownership units, new ownership units coming up, but it's starting to pick back up again. So, and we have a lot of people taking vacations over the next couple of weeks as well. So, yeah.
Cindy, no new rental coming on, but also of the vacant rentals, none of them filled.
There's still,
We are in, we're in the preliminary stages of interviews with some of them. I think we're in the beginning stages for all the units, but we have to basically go through the whole process.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nicole's working on that more than I am.
Thank you. So on the topic of one meeting for July, August, or June, July, and August, I'm okay with that. Is there anybody opposed to that? Allison?
Well, I just had a thought, instead of stalling out that much, but with respect to staff time, could we go to a system kind of like how there's work sessions with city council, where are there big topics where the board can discuss things without
and
voting
we have to
on
put
them?
packets together for you.
I mean, could there be like open discussion on rights, like something that wouldn't have to take as much time in an actual meeting where you put a packet together? I don't even know that we really need it staffed. I think we need it recorded.
We'd still have to take minutes, we'd still have to be part of it, we would still have to provide a packet. Because if you have a public meeting, there still has to be something that we have to provide a packet for. So you would still have to put something together no matter what.
Yeah, that would be my thought, is to think of 3 broad topics that we are meant for, that we know are gonna take a long time to discuss during a regular meeting, where the packet literally says, work session on blank. And I don't know that those topics exist. If we're fine, if we're chugging along at a good pace, then maybe we don't need those. I absolutely agree with the next 2 suggested cancellations on the 15th and the 8th. It feels like I want to respect staff time, but I also want to respect that there's things that we're talking about that people have already been waiting for years for APCHA to come around on, and we're on a good pace. I don't know if that would be my suggestion or request.
Skippy?
Question is, if we go to less meetings per month, do the meetings become twice as long?
That was not the intention, no.
No.
Potentially.
I was gonna suggest that we do longer meetings if we go once a month and try to at least cover more topics at that time. But not have to have staff prepare 2 packets. I mean, I don't wanna suppose what it takes, but I imagine it's a lot of time. It's almost like starting budget season as soon as one budget
Right.
season ends.
That's
And
exactly
so
it,
you've just
yeah.
finished one meeting,
You're
you've
part of
barely written
looking
up the
budgets
minutes,
right
you're
now,
doing
capital
the new
budgets, yeah.
requests, and then you're trying to get ready for the next meeting, and we're short-staffed for a variety of reasons. So I could see trying to have longer meetings if we're only sacrificing one evening a month, and do something like a 4 to 7, or, start sooner, and really make it as many topics as you've been able to fully prepare in the month prior to that packet.
Yeah, just to kind of work through that thought. I mean, I think the thing that matters most to me is just the outcomes for the community, right? I think that's what matters most to all of us. And I think we're all familiar of like death by meeting, right? It's not that the more meetings we have, the more that we accomplish. And I think the community is really feeling the acute nature of the housing crisis. And so it could be perceived that we're going on break when we're most needed, right? And that's not the case or the intention, I know. But I'm just kind of thinking through that out loud. And so it may be that, look, we've taken on some meaty stuff that hadn't been discussed, whether it's standards for sellers, right sizing, and what we actually need now is staff, going out and doing that work rather than sitting at the table talking about it. And if so, that's fine. But I kind of want to talk through that so I know when I'm talking to our community why we're making this change and how it's going to make us more effective, not less. And I asked that question first about duration of meetings because certainly moving to, from 6:30 to 7 is not a big deal. But I also sit through a lot of council meetings where we're there till 10 at night. And I can tell you, at least for me, after hour 4, my brain power and ability to make good decisions plummets. And I don't want to see us making poor decisions as a result.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not our intent.
And
I know it's not either, but
But
yeah, I
like,
mean,
like today, when this is what we could get done.
I mean, the request was just, for a short period to do one. It wasn't a overall review of the meeting. If we want to do that separately, that's fine. For example, this summer we're going to be digesting the survey we sent out to everybody. That's going to take a lot of work. We do have staff vacations and we're short staffed. So, separately, if we'd like to revisit the overall structure of the meetings, that's great. But the request for right now is just to do one meeting a month just for the summer as a temporary measure to give you guys a good product for the meetings which we do have.
And looking at our long range plan, because I do think the next 2 are appropriate with holidays and mass
Good
events.
Let's say
Really
it. Let's
important
just say it.
community events. That's the June and the July one right there. We're really only talking about that August meeting. So I wonder if there could be some sort of thing where we are still serving the community on that one August date along the lines that Skippy's saying, even like an open house, meet your APCHA board, something where we haven't ditched.
that's actually really interesting because you had talked about that, Matthew, just
Yeah.
getting us more involved.
Yeah.
So is there something that actually isn't an official meeting or staff involved, but we fill that time with the opportunity to directly interface with the public and share with them what we're working on?
Yes, but you've got to be careful because, once a couple of you get together, then,
It's a public meeting, has to be noticed.
I mean, I'm happy,
period.
I'd be happy to help facilitate that.
But notice doesn't
Me
mean
not
we don't need like
Cindy and
minutes if we're
Bethany.
having a conversation, do we? Or do we?
It at least has to be noticed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to Tom Smith about.
Yeah, okay.
For Tom.
I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to be there to take feedback and then not have it recorded if someone felt like they took their time to come and meet and.
Yeah, that's the trouble, Rachel,
You'd
yeah.
want some sort of report back of what people were saying and what the answers were, and you wouldn't want to be in a position when you'd have to say, I don't know, we have to ask Cindy and she's not here. Oh no, we have to ask Cindy and she's not here. You do want to make sure you can answer people's questions if they show up.
But there is precedent. I mean, they do, like, the city council does a picnic every year where the whole city council's there.
Yeah.
People are probably griping to you and you're not,
No,
so-
there's no discussion of politics at the picnic. People really aren't.
I think we could market it like an open house, but yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I'm
be
glad to
inappropriate, yeah.
do it.
Well, why
I'm glad
don't,
to do it.
I'll go back and check to Tom exactly what the requirements are
Yeah, but maybe that.
for the August
Yeah.
one. So we'll,
Wow, that camera work. Just crazy stuff going on over here.
Let me ask one other question, Matthew. When is the policy person going to be?
that's, actually, I can tell you because it's on my calendar.
July.
Yeah,
July 13th.
there we go.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
Diane? What?
Yeah, and obviously this person is going to have to get their feet under them and spend a little time familiarizing and stuff. The one kind of concept I was thinking, and it's along the lines of what you had suggested, Allison, is what if you had a meeting with the policy person and the board to talk about what are some of the bigger policy conflicts or things
good
we
idea.
would like to start sorting out and looking for clues to the puzzle. I mean, I'll tell you, I just reviewed our HOA bill for my place, and my capital reserves are now about $280 a month between my association and the Commons Board. and my appreciation is about $300 a month. And so I'm sitting there going, okay, so for the interior of the unit, it's $20 a month, but $280 a month is just to try to keep up the old project. And I've continued to say, are we setting people up for some sort of success when they're in the unit for a longer period of time? Or when they're sold older conversion units that are pretty poorly built in the first place? So, that's one of those dilemmas. I'd love to have a policy person saying, is this realistic that we're saying 3% fixed, simple, non-compounded appreciation, and that these are the expected life of any business that would tell you how much you should be putting in each year. I don't know that we're really getting there.
So what possible solutions do we have to help staff?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm hearing is that we would be comfortable going to once per month with the.
We're just asking for summer,
Yeah.
This summer.
Yeah.
but just the next 3 months.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what I'm hearing is we're comfortable going to once per month for the summer, with the recognition that will actually allow us to be more productive for the community, not less, as we start to implement these things we've been talking about, and that there may be an opportunity in those off-meeting times for either some kind of direct interaction with the public and the board, and or kind of looser policy conversation with the new person. And I'd be super comfortable with you giving that some thought, talking with Tom, and then circling back even by email with us.
Just to set an, sorry, this is Diane, just to set an expectation, this is a management analyst 1, it's an entry-level position. In August, this person starts mid-July. Her mom had booked a trip for her months ago to go to Europe together. She's going to be gone for 2 weeks. So in August, she is not going to be in any way, shape, or form prepared to have a policy discussion with the APCHA board. I just want to be realistic. And I understand that the board wants to do more things. I think it might be better to schedule like an open house in September, because anything that the board schedules, it's just a reality that it takes staff time. And I think you all know, if you've ever thrown a party, right? Throwing an open house is an incredible lift on the part of staff. So I think, I've heard most of the board express a willingness to say 2 months. And when we say short-staffed, APCHA is, it's not just that we've been down one maintenance person forever. It's the Bethany and Cindy are having to spend time doing qualifications, and they're getting them done, and they're not holding people up, but it is a heavy lift. And so that's why there's a request for just 3 meetings off. Thanks.
Well, I'm supportive of it because I think ultimately we'll get better packets in the meetings we do have. We'll have better discussion, and if those meetings take longer, so be it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I'm hearing 1 meeting a month for June, July, and August.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to the consent calendar. Minutes of the May 18th, 2022 regular meeting. Additions, subtractions, changes, or a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
David can't.
Yeah.
I'll
Because we
move to
have all
approve.
the, thank you.
I'll second.
A motion to approve from John, second from Rachel, and it's a roll call vote.
Sorry, David.
It's really funny because I almost said it and I was like, oh, you can't.
I'm trying to keep you track. Yeah. Okay. Francie?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Allison?
Yes.
And Rachel?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Move to the second reading and public hearing on resolution number 3, series 2022, approving regulation changes. Bethany.
Hi, Carson, how would you like me to walk through this? Do you want me to go through them one at a time?
Do we need to, or can we just, I think we're all familiar with it. We can open it up to see if there's any discussion or questions for staff, and then public comment.
Well, yeah, it's more for the public
Yeah.
to know what we're talking about.
I don't think there's
They don't have the packet.
much public.
Okay, so let's,
Our emissary.
we will open up for discussion, public comments related to resolution number 3, series 2022. Anyone like to make public comment? Going once, all right, twice. We will close public comment. So, any discussion on the resolution, or is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I would love if Bethany could just give a brief overview, 3 minutes, just for Megan and public, and if
Okay.
anyone's watching. Would be great. She's all the way here.
So the two regulation changes that are here for second reading, the first one is at point of requalification to allow someone requalifying to qualify an additional 50% of the maximum amount for that category. This would be examined on a yearly basis, depending on the updated area median income. So we do anticipate looking at this annually, which is not something we have historically done, but we felt it was important this year looking at what those numbers came in at and what we're seeing across the inventory. The second one, the fine schedule update, a lot of that is cleaning up the chart. There is no substantive changes. It is removing duplicates and making it a little cleaner. I think what the board approved in 2020 is still a functional document that still works really well. So it was just grammatical updates. And I think that was quicker than 3 minutes, Skippy, but that would be my overview.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Yeah, Bethany, let me ask you a couple of questions. I appreciate and I support where we are now, and we're thinking about this in terms of Truscott and our rentals and requalification. How does this apply, say, to private rentals at a Centennial or Castle Ridge or other, deed restricted rentals? Would they have the same margin for approval? Will we be notifying them and that sort of thing? Thank you.
Yeah, so this applies across the board to any requalification. So it would apply to Centennial or Castle Ridge. We have already been seeing some packets come in that their qualifications are up in the next month or two, and we said, hold off, just wait, let's see what the APCHA board does, and from a change perspective. So we have started to see it. I don't know if that helps. As far as formal notification, we probably won't necessarily do that, but as the requalification packets come in, we'll certainly have that conversation. And then we do get a lot of phone calls in advance of requalification, just kind of trying to get an understanding of where they'd be. So we'll certainly share it that way.
Okay, thank you for that background. So, and this is clearly just on existing tenants doing requalifications. It would not be for any new tenants who might be applying for a vacant unit.
Correct. This is only at point of requalification.
And only on rentals.
And only on rentals, yes.
Correct, because ownership you don't have to requalify for, so
And
just rental.
and we do want to look at this in about a year and see how we're doing. We're not intending this as a long-term thing.
Sure. And then one other last question as this relates to our the private rentals in the community. Do we do verification with them that they're charging according to their category approvals or category rates that they're allowed? Or can people do add-ons like an extra payment to have the appliances or things like that? How often do we check with a Centennial or Castle Ridge that they're respecting the tenants and the category pricing, the top pricing?
So every January, I think it's January, we send out the updated pricing for rental rates that are applicable when a lease renews. They can't just change it mid-lease cycle. We are supposed to receive a copy of the lease that a tenant signs to keep on file per the deed restriction. I'll be honest, that doesn't happen a ton, but we try our best. We have seen Centennial and Castle Ridge, and we've had conversations, just those are the big ones, kind of outlining what the requirements are. So we do check up. We certainly could do a better job, and I'm hoping once we're fully staffed to be able to do a really deep dive into the rental side of compliance.
And someone agrees with you there.
We also,
Right?
yeah. We also, if a lot of people are starting to get a little bit wiser onto what their rental rate should be. So a lot of people will check with us and they'll say, this is what I'm being charged, can you verify that? And so that's kind of, and a lot of the owners or the landlords know that. So that they can now be fined if they're overcharging. So I'm not too worried about the Centennial and the Castle Ridge. They pretty much fall in line with the rental rates. And with the new landlords for Centennial, they've been, and now they bought Ute City Place as well.
Right.
So they have checked in with, I've talked to the person who's going to be managing those a lot and given them a lot of documentation of what the rental rates are supposed to be for all those units. So they're aware of what they have to abide by, which
Okay,
is
no,
good.
that's great, and I was just thinking about that more a little over the weekend, that as we've gotten the system really together with Home Trek, and the issue has always been the various real, what I call scatter site 1s and 2s rentals out here and there that were part of mitigation and approval. And there's been times in the past when people have come to APCHA to say, hey, I think I've been overpaying for 9 months, can you help me get that money back? But they wouldn't come at first because they didn't want to lose the unit, you know. And so I was just kind of wondering how well we notify all the people about things like this.
Yeah, I mean, when we notify the landlords, obviously, and the owners, property managers, and then we certainly work with the tenants as much as possible. But there are scattered ones, and each scattered one represents a lot of staff hours to work with them to make sure they are in compliance. We're dealing with a few of them right now, just trying to make sure tenants are qualified, and we have copies of leases, and certainly the bigger properties are easier.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the hard work.
Yeah, and just to let you know, what we're finding is that, especially now with what the Affordable Housing Credit Program has allowed for rental units, that they can be sold separately to a separate employer. That increases our landlords that we have to deal with. All the dorm units and all the units that were owned by Meyerstein up at Highlands have been sold almost all separately to different landlords. That increases our landlord base by a ton. And we have to contact every single one of them. And when it changes hands, sometimes we do not know. So it has put a big burden on us, especially with some of the rules and regulations that have come through with the city, and the county, and how things were initially developed. Their development agreement was. Now hindsight, it would have been nice for the owners, the units up at like Highlands, even if they weren't kept in a bunch. I know that there's a lot of employers out there that are very happy employers because they were able to buy, but they had to buy at a higher price. And we do have some rental units out there that can be turned into ownership units, or if they're sold at an the appreciation is capped, but we didn't do that for all the units. And so that's just something to think about in some of these brand new developments that are approved, that not only if they're going to be employer owned units, to give the employer a little bit of a break too, and maybe somehow put an appreciation cap on that for the employer as well.
Yeah,
So it's just a thought.
It's fascinating background of kind of the broader program and rentals, which we don't look at that often. And it really, particularly going into budget season for the coming year for APCHA, we've been trying to identify where we lose money kind of per se. There's no recoverable fee versus ones where at least breaks even. And that really strikes me that it'd be something that with future rentals that are privately owned, that the owner has to have some sort of small fee for the work that you do, requalifying, notifying them, keeping but this would be something to really have identified for future
Development.
policy and going forward, and where we lose money and what we're subsidizing, because we're kind of essentially subsidizing those employers' cost of managing the unit in a certain sense. And so let's take a look at that during budgets and think if there's a way to recover some of
Doesn't
that.
the person have to qualify, to pay the $50 to qualify? The tenant?
Yes. And no matter what, any tenant has to still qualify through us, and there is a $50 qualification fee for that.
Yeah, I was just trying to get to if there's staff time to track down who the new owner is and get the addresses in Chicago or whatever, that we shouldn't be losing money on it.
Well, I mean, if an owner's out, I mean, if an owner was out of compliance, I mean,
If they're out of compliance, we
Fines
have the
could be
mechanism
assessed as
now
well,
to
right?
fine them, yes. But that also takes attorney
Time.
time, and usually attorneys have to get involved and all that other stuff as well, so there's always and staff time as well, that
Yeah,
you
we're not
never
making money
recover
off the
from the
fine.
tax, yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
any other discussion on resolution number 3?
I guess just that if we don't know, like, I think it would be nice for people who this would assist to find out that it's happening. So I understand that probably staff time, we don't have the ability to get this out there, but hopefully they will read about it in the paper. And then, Matthew, I think you're running the Facebook. I think at least a social post, and that could even be a link to the Daily News article. But if people are scrambling right now because they think, I just got a raise, now when my lease comes up, I'm gonna go, I have to leave, or blah, blah, and they could have been helped with this. I do hope that that information gets out.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. I think when they were fielding the question, it was looked like, are they can be formally told, and the answer is no, but we can definitely get it out there in the conversation, and we'll do that, yeah.
And I know that some of the tenants that were closer that are, we were hoping that this would help. They've already been told that we were working on this, so a lot of the people that would, at least some of the people that in our housing, that this could affect, that this will affect and allow them to stay in, a lot of them have been told that we were working on this. So.
And we can contact all the renters through Home Trek as well, who've qualified, or most of them, many of them.
And if this were to pass, it's effective immediately?
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution number 3, series of 2022, adopting amendments to the Aspen Pitkin employee housing regulations.
Second.
Okay, and it's a roll call vote.
Okay. Carson,
Yes.
Francie,
Yes.
John,
Yep.
Rachel,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Okay. With that, we will move to Board of Directors comments. And we'll start online with Francie.
Okay, well, my comment is that Kelly is here now, so I'm gonna pass the torch and go back to the conference I was at.
Sounds great.
All right, bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Covering Francie.
Oh, Kelly's there, on there.
Yeah,
Wow.
amazing.
Hey, Kelly, did you have any comments? Sorry, I
I
didn't.
don't have any director comments today. Thank you.
Okay. Rachel.
I guess I'd like to say I really appreciate the concerns that the owner of Aspen Total Automotive made at the beginning of our meeting. And I appreciate how bad the housing crisis is and has become, and the cost of getting anything done in any sort of timely fashion. And I just have had tremendous frustration that we're not seeing anything move forward for additional funding resources to start moving the housing program forward more effectively. And need to state, as we've talked about it before at this group, but it just brought it back to me. The city council is going to be having conversations about a priority system for the sale units at Burlingame 3 to those similar to Snowmass Village, which has had a priority system for their own workers forever, and not to have put those units available at the first hit to go to businesses on the Pitkin County side of Basalt or further throughout the county. And that that's frustrating because it won't help Mr. Aspen Total Automotive. He's at the Airport Business Center. And what we are considering, it's not finalized, we're having some discussions on the pros and cons, but of saying Aspen area residents in the first go-round, and then the second go-round, if there's still units available for people within the urban growth boundary, as we have it limited for housing purposes. But we've been told very clearly by the county that although there's some interest in going forward, and certainly members like Kelly have been very assertive about saying we need to get involved in the production of affordable housing, overall their board is not aligned to do that this November. Should they go forward next November, it's an off-year election. It's a lot harder to pass any sort of tax questions, and you can't collect till after it's over. And you know, should they go in 24? I don't know. Maybe we'll see some resources then. But we, the city, can't, with our resources, carry the whole truck. And it's unfortunate, but when you know that businesses are not paying any sales tax or any taxes whatsoever, any funding towards the housing program at the Airport Business Center, it's hard to say, well, yeah, jump on in, and we'll keep building for people who are now commuting out of town in the opposite direction. And so we're looking at the work close to where you live, and you know, again, we really had put that out there early on, hoping that the county would look forward to a question this November to come up with the resources to help us settle things like the Centennial lawsuit, the rest of the rebuilding of Phillips Curve, future land banking, participating with us at the lumber yard or any of those other housing opportunities. And they're a split board, and it's no one individual. It's just that they're not together, but there has become a point where our resources can only go so far. And so I guess having heard the public comment at the beginning of the meeting, I felt I needed to reiterate that.
Thanks, Rachel. Allison?
Kelly's got her hand up.
Oh, Kelly.
Yeah, if it's okay, and Rachel, you know, I've been super sympathetic to this, but I do want to just sort of expand the record of the argument a little bit from my perspective, because while we've not aligned, you know, the BOCC has not aligned on going after a tax question, which I think, and I'm hopeful we'll do in the future or some other source. We have hired dedicated staff. We have convened this regional coalition to leverage state, you know, and federal pass-through dollars. We are pursuing grants for housing. You know, we're applying other resources, I think, to try and get at this problem. You know, we're trying to have creative solutions with community members about an equity program. You know, it's just, I don't think it's totally accurate to just say that the county isn't doing anything. And I think, you know, I am starting to hear some pushback about the approach of the city regarding Burlingame, you know, and only dedicating that towards city employees. And I just want to recall that, you know, this kind of conversation is like what almost broke APCHA just a few years ago when we were revisiting the IGA with regards to, you know, trying to trace, like, all right, we're going to break it up, and county's going to take ours and the city's going to take ours. And oh, look, it turns out that the inventories are about half and half as far as how they were generated and which jurisdictions they were generated through. So, you know, I don't want us to go down that route. And I hope the city will think through this more thoroughly, because there are other systems, you know, that benefit the community that we do jointly, that the city county contributes very heavily towards, that the city benefits from, such as RAFTA, et cetera. So I just want to push back a little bit on the narrative, because I know it's not everything. I know it's not comprehensive, but we are trying to best leverage and do more than what we have to deliver housing solutions. And I think that we're going to see some of that in the near term coming years. And I personally have fought really hard to make sure that, we're pointed in the right direction and that those funds are available to our communities to access. And I think we'll see if we're successful, but I do think we're positioning ourselves to be. And so I hope that maybe before the city finalizes that type of decision, considers how the next couple years can change the dynamic. So thanks.
Kelly, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate particularly all the work that you've been putting into this and the job that it is. But again, we're at the city starting to see a lot of pushback from our residents saying, why are you using the tax to pay for things that other people are not contributing to in that way? We're interested in pursuing grants as well, and it's going to be interesting to see, do we both sign the grant? Or do we end up with competing grants because we're not actually doing it in a joint manner? We were hiring and paying the money to hire more of a grant writer to work with the city and APCHA as well. And looking forward to next year's APCHA budget, I want to see this agency fully staffed. It's part of the reason it's so far behind is that, and I was a county commissioner. I tried to push the county to get some housing funding going too, and we didn't have that going for us then either. But it's just at this point we see opportunities that are out there and land, and there's no partnership. We have extended the partnership in just recently with the McLean's Flats purchase on the Tom Moore property, and I lobbied my colleagues heavily to participate in that outside of city limits. And I appreciate all that we go together, but we're seeing opportunities just pass us by, and when we don't have local match, it gets real hard to pull down bigger projects and bigger opportunities and those grants that are going to be out there. I'm very concerned that we're just not playing on an equal playing field. And we're hearing from our residents all the time, and our employees and our employers and our business all the time about why we haven't done more, why we haven't created more. I'll be first to say nobody expected all the free market housing to disappear in 1 year, which it did. But we'll all take these things into consideration. But it's gotten, if we put it into the general APCHA inventory, it is as likely to be housing people who work in Basalt and Snowmass Village and Old Snowmass as to help a single employer in Aspen, and that's problematic, especially when there's nothing new coming online that the county can tell us that they're building. And we're working on 280 units out at the lumberyard. We can tell people when we can start to see the ground turn for that, but we can't tell them who our partners are in the government right next to the Airport Business Center to build some units for them. That's the challenge I'm facing. And I find it all very unfortunate.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Allison?
Couple of things. I'm guessing this from the short-staffed conversation we had earlier that the unforeseen circumstances that closed the APCHA office took walk-ins for the foreseeable future. Okay. I've had several people, it's the first thing that pops up when you come on our website.
That's not the reason.
Okay. Ask me what is the reason, or say that seems pretty menacing or vague. I don't know if we can change the language as your communications consultant to the APCHA office is closed to walk-ins, or if we want to keep it vague and
We do want to keep it vague.
okay. Is it possible to make it less cryptic? Like
No.
the office is closed to walk-ins?
We can do that, yeah.
For assistance, please
Right.
call, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's the first thing you see, and
Right.
it's,
Well, it was meant to be a temporary thing, and it's turning into a situation.
okay. I would
Yeah,
suggest the
we can do
language
that.
change. The way it's been proposed to me is this is like supposed to be open and, like a government entity, and
We
this
would
is
love
very
for it
opaque.
to be open all the time.
No, like
Yeah.
an open organization,
Yeah.
and this seems like there's lots of secrets hidden, and it's the first thing you see. So that's one comment I've gotten from the public. Also, to pass along, I'm so glad we passed the rental income expansion for requalification today. I don't know the next time we will talk about the overall category, maximum income and assets.
We're hoping to bring that, that's one of the things that we want to work on for possibly the next meeting.
Fantastic, Sydney, which we get extra time to do. Great. I am so glad that staff will be bringing that in front of us because, of course, people who want to bid on ownership have also gotten raises along with inflation. And it just, some of the things, if this helps, that don't make sense to me is that if you are one person, you can make up to $185,000 a year to be in Cat 5. If you are part of a couple and both of you are making that, you are an RO. You are so blown out of RO. The max for a two-person in Cat 5 is 2,012. So like just the matching, like why is it okay as a single person but not as a couple? So some of those scale ups don't make sense to me. And then the prices of the house, and I don't know if it's a home trek thing, a new staffing member thing, the prices that a house could be like in category 3, a 2-bedroom could be quite a lot. You're not even allowed to be making $60,000 a year as a part of a couple. So are these categories matching? Who can even get a loan for in that category? So those are some of the concerns that have come up. To me, I'm going to pick on our government representatives. I had the pleasure of watching a very long city council meeting last week. I think there was...
Which one?
But you get paid to do that.
There were 2.
It's salary. It doesn't matter how long you go. I make less each time you talk.
So do we.
Each time you talk.
So do we.
And I think there was a committee comments a portion. I don't know if the county also reports back, but I think APCHA is one of your report backs. We did speak about you guys going to your committee at some point, your council with that in complex discussion or some of the other things we're doing. I do want that door to stay open so that when we come back for these big decisions, you kind of know who you're representing, where they sit, and can kind of speak to that, or vice versa. I think that's the most recent example of things that we've wanted more perspective on. So just a reminder to our elected officials to report back what's coming up here. And will some of those open positions for APCHA be at the job fair that is happening in Snowmass Village this week? So this is also just for the public. Anyone who walks in the door gets a $25 gift certificate. I think the city has a table there, so I would speak to the appropriate person and have APCHA listings represented at that table. And hopefully lots of people come, and it's in Snowmass Village. It's town of Snowmass Village and APCHA are putting on this job fair together this Thursday, 3 to 7 at the old.
So you're talking about tomorrow?
Yeah. The city has a booth.
Okay.
So I hope
They're
those
very
open
aware
positions.
of
Okay.
situation. Yeah.
Perfect. I hope that's a good opportunity, and anyone listening, show up, walk away with a job and a $25 gift certificate.
Does that include people who have jobs?
I expect people to be walking in who have jobs.
I'm going there.
That's my comments. Thank you.
John.
I'm going to pick a scab here with Rachel a little bit when we talk about businesses in the ABC and taking advantage of the housing. Some of that is, as I've said this before, but we're over parking the Burlingame or the lumberyard stuff. It should be more of a transit-oriented community. But those businesses serve Aspen, right? I mean, Aspen Total Automotive might be the only garage out there today. Howard was my guy that worked on all of our cars. Howard got a rent raise from Roxy's, or the group that owns Roxy's, and he's not in business anymore. He might be in Basalt. I don't know where he's doing business today. He blew his knee out skiing. I saw him in town a couple months ago. But those businesses do serve Aspen. A lot of them do.
I know.
And so to pick on the businesses that just because they're sitting on the wrong side of the county or the city line.
Annex the Airport Business Center.
Well, everything up to North 40, that'd be fine with me. But I think those are Aspen serving businesses, and they're more locally serving than a lot of those businesses that sit in the core of town that so-called are paying or sales tax. The county's got a problem they've got to fix. You know, I always thought there was an issue. You know, when you're doing a real estate transaction, there's no transfer tax on county property.
It's illegal.
There should be.
Yeah, I know, in the state.
Right, but it's something with Tabor, right?
Well,
I've advocated for such very vociferously.
I was gonna jump in on you for you, Kelly.
The only tax they can do is a property tax, right?
Or sales tax.
Or sales tax, in countywide. But, they've got to figure it out. But we shouldn't penalize businesses that are truly locally serving. Even Roxy's, overpriced as they may be, I'm in there every night buying something. So they're serving me locally.
If I could just, as I said, we've talked about within the urban growth boundary, and the Airport Business Center is within the urban growth boundary. And so unless you had 76 sale units all end up with workers in Aspen, that would be the next go-round. But, we don't seem to make that complaint to Snowmass Village when Snowmass doesn't allow Aspen Total Automotive repairmen to live in their housing at the first go-round.
Well, no, and that was what Snowmass created, and that's been in
and that's
place
locally
forever, right?
serving for Snowmass. They don't have a car repair shop. I guess they have the one that does a little car repair shop up there at the gas
Jeff
station.
Hannigan.
Yeah, they're
But
still there.
anyway, that's
No, I
my only
understand.
comment.
It's not something I feel
believe
really great about.
Those are more locally serving than, it's a hell of a lot easier, than Louis Vuitton. Good point. So anyway, that's all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, John.
Skippy.
Okay, well, I guess I'll jump in on this old ditty too then. Why not? Just to be brief, I think we've had this conversation a number of times. Rachel continues to bring it up. Kelly, I'm saying this for you, but also just for anyone. And, I think and I think all of us agree with the problem statement that Rachel has raised. And Kelly, you do as well. We want to see more participation from the county in the areas where it can around housing. Where we disagree, and there's significant disagreement, is how do we do that? And I will just share that, I think the idea of sort of, these are our toys, kind of get out of here, is not the energy that we as the kind of leading community in this valley should be engendering. Maybe the solution is to work with Snowmass so that they relax that rule, but not that we adopt a rule that we think that doesn't serve the valley. I think we need more of a we mentality, not a me mentality right now. And so I think that there are ways working together to do more. And I definitely hear from people every day about the lack of housing. But I also heard from people today, just saying like, well, there's also a lot of stuff in the county that the city hugely benefits from. The airport, 3 ski areas, et cetera. And what would it look like if the county or other bodies started responding in kind? Do we really want to get into that sort of tit for tat war? And I think the answer for me is no. So I agree with the problem, and it needs to be solved. But I think we have differing views on how we get there. And I think the discussion's a really healthy one. So I actually really appreciate Rachel raising it, because we weren't talking about this, and it is a problem. And so the robust discussion, I think, is good, and I encourage you and your board and everyone else to be involved and weigh in.
Well, can I just ask, I would love for the city to write a letter to the county sort of laying out this, thought process and the concerns. I think it will have an impact. I'm the person on the BOCC beating the drum on housing all the time, right? So I would just suggest that the city council feel free to articulate that in a formal manner to our board and let it resonate like that.
Yeah,
It's a great idea, Kelly.
I love it.
But I do feel like I am a little bit of that, I'm losing some impact there.
Well, I think you're right, though. If we can articulate what we view as the deficit to be solved, that's a good starting point for a conversation and a really good step forward. So I'd support that. You want to talk about this?
So I guess to use your analogy, I'm just thinking sort of, I'm going to take my football and go home.
Yeah.
The city can pull off and separate out by itself. The county can't do that because the city is part of the county, right? And I guess for me, I'm just thinking about, one of the things that has been on our agenda is trade downs and right sizing. And I don't know if that's still part of the discussion. I hope that it ultimately does make it through as a priority. And I guess I would just want to sort of, maybe, I don't know if those get set aside or if it's the trade down priority is you know, the city and then the urban growth boundary and then the county and then everyone else. But to me, I still think that even if you do sort of set that aside, I mean, if somebody's trading down from an APCHA unit and it's into, you know, even if it is a city-owned unit,
In Burlington.
APCHA as a whole benefits. So I guess that would be my only thought. I mean, I certainly hope there's a way for more collaboration and it doesn't end up sort of with a split. I mean, it's much like the problems that we deal with within APCHA. It's a complicated problem without an easy solution, right? So
It is, and you know, it's something I've been talking about for well over a year, where there's time, I mean, literally since I first got on the city council, to say, why don't we try to pursue something similar to the growth of RAFTA? And RAFTA was originally a city-only funded program with a sales tax. And then it grew to a point where they asked a question countywide. Should the tax in the city be repealed and replaced with one that's countywide to fund a countywide bus system? And that passed. And that's where we are today. And I've tried to use that as an example of that's what we need to do with the housing daycare tax, because we're also really stuck with the only ones on daycare funding. And that is affecting our workforce as well. And as I understand it, the Healthy Community Fund that I supported and we've all voted for does not support childcare, either construction or otherwise. The county's role is with pass-through federal money for super low income childcare. So we are looked at as the only ones in the whole county for the childcare shortage as well. And so we're taking money out of what could have been our housing funds, the housing daycare tax, and putting more of it into childcare. And so it's just the whole burden standing on Aspen has gotten unbearable. And you don't hear people say, why hasn't the county built more housing? But I mean, how many units, other than some buy downs that we've done with the mitigation dollars, of new units have we been or are anticipated to come online? We don't even know if there'll be new units out at Phillips Curve after the, you know, multiple $1 million purchase, which I supported, and knowing that at that time it was like a $3.5 million new sewer system they needed, and now it's more than that. And we're hearing from the Woody Creek Caucus they don't want another single unit there than that's already there. You know, it's just, wait a second, we're seeing this gaping hole.
Rachel, I'm getting a little frustrated because you're being a little bit hyperbolic about this. I mean, our board has had public conversations about Woody Creek where they've committed to up to 70 units, you know, which is not a ton, and that includes all the replacements. You know, so we're moving forward on a plan there. You know, it's not nothing.
No.
And you know, and I hear every day about why isn't the county pursuing housing. So we're getting into a territory where it's starting to seem like not accurate in how the issue is being presented or the county's activities and roles.
I apologize if that is a mischaracterization, Kelly. I guess I've gone on what I've read in the paper, and the last was very much that there's an objection to having additional units there, and it'll really come down to the financing, and if you need new units to help pay for the additional infrastructure. But other than that, it seemed to be a very limited endeavor.
yeah, and I guess just the last thing I would say, I mean, I think this is just, you know, obviously, I know you are and you will, but I mean, this is, if going down this road, I mean, just kind of thinking about it logically, I mean, the county is paying half of the APCHA budget, the city is paying half of the APCHA budget, and then we talk about Snowmass, right? I mean, Snowmass doesn't pay anything, right? So, I mean, to me, I don't know, I mean, it's almost like it should be a conversation that includes Snowmass as well, because, and not just the county, right? Because, I mean, the county is at least putting half of the budget for APCHA every single year, right? So, I don't know. It's again a very complicated problem. So that's all my comments, David.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, easy problems.
What do you agree with?
What do you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I understand you.
It has no comment.
All right, 5:06.
I would, but I can't, and I'm not Rick Head. So.
I will motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second from Rachel. And it is a roll call.
Okay, Kelly,
Yes, thank you.
Carson,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Allison,
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned, 5:07.
Love that.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Enjoy the beautiful day, everyone. See ya.